Also, we have not only do we have a survivor advisory board, a sexual assault survivor advisory board, we also have the human trafficking leaders, and they are instrumental to creating awareness and creating the reality of human trafficking in Texas. And we're very excited that Sophia Struthers is going to be speaking to us about that on Wednesday. But also we do have a little exhibit there. There is the Be the One video that was made a couple of years ago by the Office of the Attorney General, and all the work that they've done with human trafficking. So that's there. And we also have some documents of information. But if you all are ever needing speakers or anything in that regard, that's the group to get a hold of. So if you need more information, just let us know and we can make sure that you all get that. I know that we've referred them to different human trafficking coalitions across the state and different human trafficking conferences that are happening that they can provide keynotes and things like that. And they are absolutely, not only are they the best speakers that we have in Texas, I argue they're the best in the nation. So we're very excited about them. So so now we want to welcome Rosa. She is from Ohio, and I have to say, Rosa and I became executive directors of our coalitions right around the same time. I can't remember if it was you first or me. It was the same, maybe same day. Maybe that's what it was. But I was so excited because I knew her before and always admired how smart and cheery and just brilliant and fierce that she was. And so when I heard that she was becoming the executive director of the Ohio Coalition, I was very excited for the state of Ohio, and I was very excited for her and the staff there because I knew that she was going to lead with brilliance, as she always does. And again, I've long admired her tenacity and just the way she leads. And we were just here talking about self-care and all the wonderful things that she's doing for her staff in Ohio. And I was taking notes. I'm like, I'm gonna do that too. I'm gonna do that too. Like meatless Wednesdays, like no meetings on Wednesdays, because we all get stuck doing meetings and then we start doing all our work at 5 o'clock because we've been in meetings all day. So anyway, so she's just this brilliant, fierce, beautiful soul that we decided that we wanted to ask to come and share her wisdom and share her information with us. And without further ado, I would like to invite Rosa to come up and have her keynote. I lost my words.
Gracias, Rose. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Yes, it is a pleasure to be here today with all of you. And I promise you that I will not be here or keep you for an hour and a half. Because all I heard outside was like, the coldest room and an hour and a half. I promise I will not do that. So I will not be the one interfering between you and your drinks, okay? At the end of the day and the going about. But my name is Rosa Beltre. I am the president and CEO of the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence. My preferred pronouns are she, her, ella. I am an Afro-Latina, Taína. Yes. And I am proud and honored to carry all of the adjectives that actually define who I am and what we do. So as I was invited to be here today, the invitation first came, can you do the first keynote in Spanish? Puedes hacer la primera en dar este anuncio, hablar con nuestra gente en español. And I was like, yes, let's do this. And then we recognize where we're at and the timings, right? And understanding the dynamics of what that actually means. But I do want to offer for those of you that still want this, because we believe in language justice, that you are able to go ahead and call the number that they provided you with so that you have access to everything that we will be speaking for the next 30 minutes or so in Spanish or in your language so that you feel connected. I am Afro-Taína Latina from the Dominican Republic of immigrant parents, so I will be speaking Spanglish. Okay, so voy a entrar, a salir, a hacer, and if you're uncomfortable with that, you're uncomfortable with all of this. So I am so sorry for you. What can I say? Okay. So I decided to not go ahead and do a presentation because sometimes in these spaces and these times we become invisible and people are more interested in what the slides have to say than what we really have to say and what we have to express. So as we're navigating through these spaces in this 2.5 days, I think that it's important, and if you would join me, that we actually take a few minutes to go ahead and honor the families of the 53 migrants that were left without air conditioner in a trailer and tragically passed away. I also want us to take a moment of silence and that we honor and elevate Uvalde. They had names. Y sus vidas fueron arrebatadas a destiempo. And their names were Makina, Leila, Miranda, Niva, José Manuel, Xavier, Tess, Marie, Rogelio, Eliana, Eli, Anabel, Jackie, Ucia, Jaycee, Maite, Jayla, teachers as Irma and Eva, Amarie, Lexi, Alicia. Un minuto de silencio, por favor. Thank you. We tend to be in spaces and we don't address the elephants in the room. We tend not to speak about our emotions and the things that actually affect us and how all of the trauma continues to be intertwined, compounded, and that everything is intersectal. That we cannot do this work if we don't do it with an anti-oppressive framework. If we are unable to speak up in the moments that we actually need to. It is impossible to celebrate without acknowledging the trauma and the impotence that most of us in this room, in this space, in this land that is not ours feel. The rage, the emotions of everything that is going on, not only in Texas or in Ohio, but in our nation. That we cannot envision a brighter future if we're unable to go ahead and speak about the things that truly affect our field, our movement, that continues to be intersectional, continues to be oppressed, continues to want to be silenced by the many layers of rules and regulations and lack of autonomy that at times they want to put on us. But I ask you that even though you might feel drained and tired, and I know that it's already 3:30, and I know that it feels, and I have felt, that the world is coming up against us, and that it doesn't matter where we move, what we do, how loud we yell, that we're still oppressed and silenced. But I want you to join me in breathing. Can you inhale? Release. Déjalo libre. Una vez más, one more time. Inhale. Release. That you may know today that you are doing the best that you can. That you may know today that we celebrate 40 years in spite of, because we will not be silent. We will not be scared. We will not be invisibilized. We celebrate because we are catalysts of change, and because that cannot be taken away from us. I hope that you were energized this morning as we heard from the voices of the elders, all of the history and everything that it took for TASA to exist, to be formed, and to be able to be celebrated in its 40 years. I hope that each and every one of the workshops that you engaged and were in today gave you new tactics and best practice models for you to incorporate back within your offices. I hope that you were energized. Your statewide coalition is led by the first Latina. First Latina. And from rural area. Not as a token to cover space, not because there wasn't anybody else that could have taken her place, but because the time was now, right? Because the time was now for change, for invigoration, for envisioning a different future where we would be represented, where you would be represented, where Texas would be truly represented. I heard the words this morning that they worked with scarce resources, that they created things that did not exist, that they were trailblazers and innovative and passionate. And that is phenomenal. But I hope that we don't have to celebrate another 40 years of having to reinvent wheels that already exist, of having to work with scarce resources, of not having the support that we actually need, and having to go ahead and yell louder than everybody else just because they tend to believe that we do not exist. So if you can join me once again in giving a hand of applause to the board, to the previous TASA presidents, to the previous TASA board members, and to all of the staff, because today also marks the first time that in 2.5 years, we could be in community, we could be present. So TASA, gracias. Because when many thought that it couldn't happen, you actually made it happen. And you continue to drive the road in which many of us, many other coalitions, many other directors, many other programs want to continue to exist. We are hoping that the next 2.5 days continue to create the spaces that you actually want to work. And that you continue to understand that we cannot give up. That we celebrate hard, but we work harder. That we do it con más fuerzas, con más ganas. Con más vigor. Maya Angelou said, "You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Rise is what we do as advocates, as preventionists, as activists, as counselors, as TASA has done for the past 40 years. To turn 40 is a luxury. It symbolizes overcoming the equator of one's own existence after overcoming the difficulties that life, that organizational strategies puts in its way. Turning 40 means accepting who you are, where we come from, all we have stumbled along the way. It is about coming to terms with who we are. And that means our lights and our shadows. Many changes occur in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirits, in our souls when we turn 40. Changes also occur within our organizations. Many changes are more evident than others. And many changes do not occur as soon as we turn 40. They occur over time. A statewide coalition, if you don't know, has a federal designation as a training and technical assistant provider, and every state has now a coalition. They are the matter expert on matters of sexual violence. Some states have dual agencies. Domestic violence and sexual assault, understanding that they actually are able to go ahead and in some of our work intertwine, but many coalitions also understood that there has to be a set aside because not every trauma is the same and not every survivor of sexual violence is a survivor of domestic violence. That not every victimization is acute, that there is trauma that surfaces time after time. People also don't understand that coalitions are the glue, are the bridges, are the amplifiers of the needs of the community that sometimes our local programs cannot serve. But coalitions are also placed in a very difficult situation, in an awkward position. And it is to compete with each and every one of you for funding, for fundraisers, for work, to have a moment of what our branding and what our mission actually looks like. Forgetting that as a coalition, as a collective, we hold the weight of the entire state. That when we advocate for all. In every region, in every area, in every locality, which each and its identities. That this work is done at a macro level and that it's complex. And that we, if we don't exist, have much to lose and nothing to gain. A coalition turning 40 is worth celebrating in spite of the many mishaps that it might have had. Because at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with the formality of an institution, of an agency, or the legacy of the many people that came through the 40 years. It has to do with the mission. When you turn 40, you realize precisely, because now you are more conscientious of time, that there is still much more that needs to be done and that we might need to change the way in which we advocate, in which we do prevention, in which we do training, in the ways that we do social justice, en la forma en el cual hablamos, interpretamos, nos unimos y colaboramos, in the way that we speak, in the way that we communicate, in the way that we collaborate. In 40 years, you realize that you have to change the way that you do your impact evaluations, your counseling service, your multidisciplinary teams, your technical assistance, your public policy work, your engaging men work, your funding streams. That you have to be vigilant in the way that you don't continue to victimize the same communities that you also work and represent. That no longer the Latino, the LGBTQ+, the indigenous, the people of color are just merely underrepresented, that we are actually underserved. Underserved. And the representation in our agencies do matter. When you turn 40, you value your lived experiences and admit your mistakes and the organizational harm caused as part of the growing pains. Porque hay un refrán que dice que el herido sigue hiriendo. There's a phrase that says that hurt people hurts people. And we are in the business of harm reduction. Yes? Woo! But how much harm does this movement cause? How much exhaustion does it build? Even the layers of funding and the ability to actually have autonomy, to have a voice. And we say that we represent the voiceless. But mainstream has done a great job en haciendo que tú y yo nos alemos de los pelos, and ensuring that you and I can never see eye to eye, and that we continue to be disgruntled and separated. ¿Por qué? Porque en la unión está la fuerza. Because the reality is that we are better and bigger and greater when we are united. When we don't continue competing for funding, when we don't look one class over the other, when we don't think that because that you're in Austin and I'm here in Houston, that you are better than I am. I don't know. And probably that doesn't happen here, but it happens in Ohio. Pero aquí no hay nadie mejor que nadie. There's no one program that is better than the other. And there's no one human better than the other. So if you have been in this movement here in Texas for the last 40 years, and you still show up to the spaces with a little edge on your chip on your shoulder, and you're still disgruntled and hurt, you need to do some deep, heavy healing, internal healing. And that is not anything that the coalition needs to do for you. That's like professional development. They don't invest in me. What are you going to do to invest in yourself? What are you going to do to heal yourself? What are you going to do to amplify yourself? So we can create, and we could be walking around y que la coalición todavía me debe esto, and so took my job, and so did this, and they, no. We cannot continue to be victims. Celebrating 40 years lets us know that indistinctively, yes, we've made mistakes, we stumble, and today we ask for forgiveness, but we cannot continue another 40 years with you and your chip on your shoulder and us with the ability to actually shine, because then that's gonna dim your light. You gotta heal. You gotta heal. We could blame everybody and their mama. Podemos culpar a todo el mundo de la forma en el cual nosotros hacemos este trabajo. And with this, I'm not saying that there are not layers of racism, that there is not oppression, that there is not a culture in which we continue to have to fight for, but we have to do better. We cannot continue to work in a system that is supposed to be healing, restorative, and continue to hurt each other. We are the ones pushing each other out of the movement, out of the field. Because every time a new person comes in, we just talk about the old garbage. La peste ya está bueno. And we continue dragging that without allowing the person to come to their own conclusions, to feel enamored with the work, with the survivors, to be able to contribute, because this is the way that we used to do it, and this is the way that it should be done. No, 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 no. We will honor you. Yes, gracias. It was great. Your time was awesome, but it is time to innovate, because the way that we have been doing it continues to perpetrate harm and violence. Turning 40 is a time of healing and a time of reckoning and a time of acknowledgement. When you turn 40, your self-esteem increases, not because you think that you're it, even though we can say, Tasa is it, right? Tasa might agree. My people in Ohio might say, oh, ESV is it. No, right? That you come to this realization that you have walked so many miles, and that not that you're entitled or that you're owed, but at the end of the day, you've walked the miles, and that has weight. You realize that there is no imposter syndrome here. You learn to tune out the noises around you and steadfast on your mission. You realize that you have earned the right to be here in this space at this moment, that you deserve to be here, that you deserve to be in the movement, that you have too much to offer to be silent and not be seen. When you turn 40, you start dreaming and looking for substantial changes that you want to make, because you are still not done, because you are still not satisfied. You are not content, and you are no longer settling for anything but the best. You change strategies. You plan in terms of 3 instead of a 5-year strategic plan. You start shaping your future, and you create a concrete vision board. You now have true SMART goals, right? The ones you create with your client, SMART. And now you have a logic model that is evidence-based, and you can pull it and say, here we go. This is the track we're going. This is what I'm doing. When you turn 40, you are more in tune with your emotions, your feelings, your wants, your goal. You are less apologetic for your decisions and your walk. Turning 40 is becoming of age, and you become comfortable with who you are. Y al que no le guste, que se vaya a freír papas. And if you don't like it, honey, you could go ahead and fry them up. What can we do? At 40, you become assertive. You are able to detect the manipulation and the horse maneuver. I don't curse, so I'll say horse maneuver. Mentira, la mierda que quieren echarle a uno arriba. That they want to throw at you. That they want to throw a little bit of spray from Bath and Body Works and make it smell good, but you know at the end of the day, it stinks. And when you turn 40, you're not afraid of saying it actually stinks. This is not good. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't smell right. There is something aligning that doesn't make sense, that irks me. And I'm not gonna take it anymore. When you turn 40, you decide what tables you wanna sit at. And if none are welcoming, you don't stay to be a feast at the table. You actually go to the woods, have your axe, you go ahead and chop the tree and make your own damn table. Because you've earned it. Because you should. You choose to work with transparency, with honesty, with respect, with intentionality, cueste lo que cueste. No matter what it costs. At 40, you have non-negotiables. You learn that to be inclusive, ethical, just, and grateful, it is greater than to be politically correct. Your peace is non-negotiable. And you do all of the internal and external work to be at peace, but you are also not afraid to go to war. So don't get it confused. I want my peace, but I will go for war for my survivors. I will go for war for my state. I will go for war for what we believe. I would go for war for the things that we have put in place that have taken so long for you to come here and take them away from us. At 40, your best decade begins. And you're no longer afraid to be alone when you stand in truth. I don't need a lot of people by my side, especially if they're going to be hypocritical about the work that needs to be done. Your stage of stability begins. You lose the vergüenza. The shame. You don't allow the stigmas to paralyze you from doing what needs to be done. You turn 40 and the BS is not the game anymore. It isn't, and it shouldn't. And with this, I'm not telling my millennials and my friends and Gen X and G that is not a value, but when you turn of age, there are some things that you know what? Yo no tengo tiempo para esa pendeja. I simply don't have time for that. Because it's taken you too long to come to the realization that your work values, that your work matters, that your voice has value. You don't have time to surround yourself with people that are not like-minded like you. Because at the end of the day, the goal is for Texas to be free of sexual violence. Yes? So we don't have time for a lot of stuff. You turn 40, Tasa, and we celebrate you because now we can move from celebration to shaping and forming the tomorrow that we want the future generation to live. And sometimes we think that that's going to take another 10 years, 15 years. No, no, no. That's tomorrow. You look at me, I'm a grandma. Yes. Difícil de creer, ¿verdad? One is going to be 4 and the other one is going to be a year old. We should be doing this work so that we don't exist tomorrow. Not because we want a paycheck tomorrow. We should be doing this work not only from an activist and advocacy perspective, but we have to do it from a prevention lens as well. And not just primary prevention, It's territory prevention. It takes a village. I want that whatever time Luna and Grace, the granddaughters, have on this earth, they don't have to deal with this nonsense. We don't have to talk about social norms. We don't have to talk about the short dresses. We don't have to go ahead and be talking about the narrative that so many want to put in, the victim blaming mentality that we still have to refute day after day, because at the end of the day, nobody deserves to be raped. Nobody deserves to be assaulted. And it is happening in the churches, it is happening in government, it is happening everywhere. In our schools. And it's not only the rape, it's the sexual assault, it is the sexual harassment. It is the grooming, the groping, it's everything. So we have to do better. And we have to do more. And when you reach 40, you realize that we haven't done enough, but I don't have another 40 years in me to make it happen. It has to happen now. And we need all of you to make it happen. So Tasa, yes, we celebrate you. And at 40, we use the indignation that we feel of the injustice that is felt, that is seen and experienced everywhere, as that will ignite us to do this work fearlessly. And as we shape our future, and as we look and envision our future, we have to work harder, boldly, unapologetically, and we will have to do it with a sense of urgency to eradicate sexual violence in Texas. We have to come together truly as a community of practice with a trauma-informed and survivor-centered lens, without political views. This is a bipartisan issue. And the name is Rosa Beltre, President, CEO of the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence. Pronouns she, her, ella, afro-taína, latina, inmigrante, dominicana. Dime algo más. Write it down. Survivors in our field have too much to lose. And we don't have time to be tiptoeing around your feelings, your threats, your intimidations, your lack of funding, your lack of visualization. Your agendas, hidden and sometimes very open, to oppress, to continue silencing, to immobilize women, Latine, LGBTQ, trans, gender nonconforming, browns, Black, and indigenous community. I don't know you, but I feel that I have a moral obligation to create safe spaces. We talk a lot about morality, but what is moral? ¿Qué es la moral? What is moral? Is moral to let you die? Is it moral to not give you a voice? What is moral? Being moral and legalist are two different things. And advocacy is about options. It's about opportunities. We have a moral obligation to be aware, to not be silent, to be transparent, to be flexible, to be holistic in our approaches and understanding that systems don't work for every survivor. They don't. They haven't. but we have to have all of the options available. That the legal system has failed many of our communities. So we have to talk about transformative justice and other ways of healing. That justice looks different for everybody, but that we are all entitled to obtain it, to seek it, to have it accessible in whichever way we find it fit. Because it's about my healing, my journey, and that, eso tiene valor. We have a moral obligation to be loud, to fight for autonomy, to be intersectional. Y tenemos que ser capaces de decir, ya basta, enough. We have to be willing and able to say, enough is enough. Our issues are complex. Our history as a movement is complex, and it continues to be overshadowed and there's so many words that I cannot use, so I will refrain from not using it. But I'll tell you a little bit of where I come from. Yo vengo de la República Dominicana, donde el dictador lo mataron. I come from the Dominican Republic, an island within the Caribbean that is much more than Punta Cana. And we share an island with Haiti. Two different histories, two different governments, two different countries in one island. Puerto Rico fits 7 times in the Dominican Republic. 7 times. The Dominican Republic has over 13 million populations. We were there when Christopher Columbus thought that he discovered anything. Ya, yo estaba ahí. My taínas were already there. Our gold was already there. We were already rich. La ciudad primada de América. We know what it is to be colonized. We know what it is to have white supremacists. We know what it is to be killed for our gold. We know what it is for our women and our children to be raped. And over acquiring our liberation and our freedom, not only from Spain, but also from France, we have different types of oppressors that continue to reign and take control. Even as we wrote up our Constitution and became libre e independiente y soberana. We had a dictator for 40 years, Trujillo, Rafael Leonidas Trujillo, president of the Dominican Republic. And when you hear in the United Nations that they talk to you about women's freedom and liberation, and they talk to you about las hermanas Mirabal, and March 8th, and then September 8th, las hermanas Mirabal, Petra, Maria Luisa y Minerva, the butterfly sisters, raped over and over by this tyrant because their spouses were fighting for the liberation of our nation. In the midst of all of that, small island like this decided to go ahead y cortarle la cabeza a Trujillo. Lo esperaron. They didn't wait for the Yankees. They didn't wait for anybody else because there is power and strength in the collective. There comes a time that when you are tired of the oppression, when you are tired of not being seen, when you are tired of not being heard, and when you turn 40, that you say, ya no tengo más nada que perder. Voy a pelear por mi libertad. I have no more and nothing else to lose. Now I'm going to fight for my liberation. 40 years is a long time to be oppressed. But still, we rise. We shape our future by owning the narrative, by radical imagination and liberation. Sexual violence is pervasive. It does exist. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't have sides, political colors, views, agendas, or economical status. It doesn't matter who you are, your education, or if you're a scholar, you're not exempt, but it is preventable. It takes a village, and we need to change the social norms, the constant hustling to be seen, to be funded, to exist, to be able to advocate for survivors. We need to stop conforming to the status quo. We need to stop recibiendo migajas, crumbs, crumbs. This movement of the sexual violence movement has always been seen as the stepchild within the social justice movement. Recibiendo migajas. Our survivors don't need our migajas, our scrap, our crumbs, the afterthought. Every programming, every technical assistant, every advocacy, every services that are provided, we always do it having them in the first place, with the first intention. So in order to elevate that work, we need to stop thinking as those that receive leftovers. It is not the same to eat at the table when the meal is being served. It doesn't matter how beautiful that platter or leftover plate is left. If you still have to put it in the microwave, it still doesn't taste the same. And some of you might say, a veces sabe mejor. La comida recalentada. No, 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 no. Unos taquitos frequecitos y unas pupusas ahí mismo saben mejor al momento. Un sancocho bien hecho sabe mejor al momento. It tastes better at the moment. So we have to stop operating and working as we are only entitled to migajas. We deserve to be served in the main course at the right time. To conclude, we celebrate 40 years in spite of, because our future looks bright, looks diverse, looks anti-oppressive, looks equitable, looks funded, looks intersectional, accessible. The future looks like me. It looks like you. It looks like us. The future is radical, transformational, representative, evolving, fluid, inclusive, fearless. The future is interconnected. The future looks liberated. Sigamos la lucha. Y tasa felicidades. Pero es imposible el yo irme hoy without saying truly who I am. ¿Sabes quién soy? Me gritaron negra. Viviendo en la diáspora. Tenía 7 años apenas. Apenas 7 años. ¿Qué 7 años? No llegaba a 5 siquiera. De pronto unas voces en la calle me gritaron, ¡negra! 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 ¿Soy acaso negra? Me dije sí. ¿Qué cosa es ser negra? Negra. Y no sabía la triste verdad que aquello escondía, negra. Y me sentí negra, negra, como ella decía, negra. Y retrocedí, negra, como ellos querían, negra. Y odié mis cabellos y mis labios gruesos. Y miré apenada mi carne tostada. Y retrocedí, negra. Y retrocedí. Negra, 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 negra. Y pasaba el tiempo y siempre amargada. Y seguía llevando a mi espada mi pesada carga. Y cuánto pesaba y cómo pesaba. Me alicé el cabello, me polvoré la cara. Y entre mis cabellos siempre resonaba la misma palabra. Negra, 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 negra. Hasta que un día retrocedía, retrocedía y iba a caer. Negra, 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 negra. ¿Y qué? ¿Y qué? Negra, sí, negra. Soy negra, negra soy, negra sí, negra soy, negra, negra, negra soy. De hoy en adelante no quiero laciar mi cabello. No quiero y me voy a reírme de aquellos que por evitar, según ellos, y por evitarnos algún sinsabor, llaman a los negros gente de color. ¿Y de qué color? Negro. Y qué lindo suena negro. Y qué ritmo tiene negro. Negro, 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 negro. Al fin comprendí y ya no retrocedo al fin. Y avanzo segura al fin. Avanzo y espero al fin. Y bendigo al cielo porque quiso Dios que negro azabache fuera mi cabello, y ya comprendí al fin que ya tenía la llave, porque negro, negro, negro soy, negro fui y negro seré. I am black. I will be black. I will continue to show up black. I deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be served in my language, in my tongue, with my culture, in my inheritance. So advocates, preventionists that are here, as we continue to celebrate the 40 years, as we continue to move forward in this work, no matter how you feel or they make you feel, always be you. Show up anyway. Do it anyway. Yell anyway. Shout out anyway. Be anyway, because we deserve this space. Celebremos. Happy 40th year.
Woo.
Thank you
I
so
heard
much all for being here.
Temperatures.
We listened to
here in
Rose,
Texas. I
our
think it has a little to
CEO.
do with the heat Rosa brought from Ohio. Thank you, Rosa, for that, for all those words of encouragement. The thing that we pride ourselves on at TASA for 40 years, and for 40 more, is that we believe in all the perspectives. We believe it takes every perspective, every experience to manage and to serve survivors where they are. Texas is a very diverse state. And Rosa, I appreciate the information that you brought to us, the truth that you brought to us here. And if we could compensate you to start our mornings every day for that got the blood pumping, but I just wanted to say thank you, and I just wanted to thank everyone here for being here today. We are done with day one, but I've seen the workshops full, that you all are participating in the workshops, and it's going to take all of us and all of our different perspectives and all of our different ideas and different approaches. But the thing that is due north for us is being survivor centered, is meeting that survivor where he or she is, where they are. So thank you all so much. And I hope that you enjoy the hotel, Houston, what Houston has to offer. And also, we'll see you, I guess, tomorrow morning. And we have more workshops and more, we'll have a panel for 20 years ago. We had our Speak Up, Speak Out, and we're going to have some of the original members from that panel. And that was funded by the Attorney General's office back then. I think that was when Abbott was Attorney General. It's been a while, but so we're very excited to share that with you. And we have a great lineup of workshops tomorrow. So thank you, Rosa, again. And thank you all again for your patience and for listening to each other's perspective as we continue the courageous conversations on how we're going to make Texas the best, and how we're going to make everything survivor centered when it comes to sexual assault. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you tomorrow.